a big fan of all these artists that cut your songs, so that's how I kind of got familiar with your songs before you gotten your record deal. I mean, I was a huge fan of Tim McGraw, and for a little
Right.
while is one of my favorite Tim McGraw songs. I absolutely love that song.
He, you know what? He really did just nail it. I mean, they cut such a great record on it. And I remember, of course, I was in the studio. I'd written this music, and I finished the lyrics to it, and I was in the studio, and of course, that's kind of what I do. It's my MO a lot. I write the lyrics at the very last minute, and I don't know why. It's just that pressure sort of maybe a lot of people don't operate well that way, but I seem to. And so I was writing the lyrics to the song in the studio as I was as I was cutting the song, and I remember it. I remember taking it over to Tim and those guys, and then with Byron Gallimore, who was my producer, produced Tim and Joe D and and Faith and a lot of people. And Byron's like, dude, this is a rocking thing. I'd love to see Tim cut this. And of course, they cut the living crap out of it, and it was just such a great record and undeniable, man. And I tell you, it's one of my favorite cuts I've ever had.
Is that song from experience? How did you come up with that song?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was about a girl, as a lot of my songs tend to be, and I just I wrote the song about a girl, and the James River goes right through my hometown, Lynchburg, man. And we would sit there and we would watch the planes take off, and I would just dream about what am I going to do. I mean, I knew I had to get out of there at some point, and where was I going to go? But I would sit there and watch the planes take off, and we'd sit there on the river and James River and watch it just go by, man, on summer days. And I mean, what kind of memories? I just have such great, vivid memories of that. And it's just a songwriter. That's what you do. You write about it.
I'm glad it's one of your favorites because that's always been one of my favorites that you wrote. Just the idea of a breakup song that's not sad because the fact that you even had that girl in the first place was a miracle in itself. Just really cool idea. Now, the other big Tim song you wrote was My Next 30 Years. You already touched on. I liked it okay at the time. I was a kid when it came out. Now that I'm past 30, I really relate to that song.
Well, I think everybody does. And I think, for me, even, when I wrote it, I didn't think anything of it. I really seriously, I sat there. I was having coffee that morning, and I just, it was on my birthday, real literally. And I said, wow, 30, and so I wrote the song down. And then I had a gig that night at this little bar. It was called O'Charlie's. And I set my piano up and I played that song. Everybody would come in, and of course I'd play a lot of my originals, and I'd play Billy Joel and Elton John. I'd play, Van Morrison or whatever I would play. I would play all these Jimmy Buffett songs, and so I had quite a following, but I would also throw my songs in there. I would play I'm All Right. I remember playing My Next 30 Years that night. And I said, I just wrote a song this morning to see if you like it. And everybody went crazy. And they loved it. I was like, wow, I didn't really expect that reaction to it. And then, of course, I sat on it for a few years. And I don't even know if Tim was crazy about the song. Tim even talked to me about it. He said, I don't like the way I sing it. He said, I wasn't crazy about my vocal on it. And I think Tim did a great job on it. I think it really was good for him. A good song for him. But I know a lot of people are like, man, don't cut that song. It makes you sound old. And it was a humongous it was a big hit for him. So, look, I'm very grateful for it. I'm very thankful for it. As you look back and you realize how hard it was for those things to happen, to get those cuts. And then for it to be a single is a miracle. And then it becomes a hit or a number one song, especially with all the politics that go behind all these things. And I wish I didn't know all I know about it now, but at that point I really didn't know as much. And you become an artist and you realize, wow, okay, it's a miracle to have a number one song as it is.
I've done over 30 of these interviews now, and I'm starting to learn about some of these politics that go on behind the scenes that I didn't know about, too. So
you don't want to know.
Yeah.
I promise.
One of those 30-plus interviews I did was with Joe D, actually, and we talked about you quite a bit. Obviously, you wrote Bye-Bye, and I'm All Right for her. She was telling me that Bye-Bye was not supposed to be a female song and that you were pretty adamant about that.
Oh, I tried to talk her out of it. I really did, Glenn. I was like, I really did. I was like, man, it's a guy song. I can't see a girl doing it. She's like, I really want to cut it, Phil. I really want to cut it. I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know. And then of course she cut the crap. And then, it was that song. You talk about a singer and an artist that can interpret a song. And Jody Messina, man, she's one of the very best. I mean, I think she just is. I mean, I love women singers. I really, really do. But there aren't, I think so many of them. I don't like when people try to all this vocal gymnastics and they scream at me and it's like, I can't take it. It's like, stop screaming at me. And there's certain singers I can't listen to, women singers like that, and even men singers. But it's like Bonnie Raitt, Linda Ronstadt, some of those singers like that. And I really do put Jody in that category. I think she's just got that voice, man. And she it's just emotes soul. And I believe everything she says when she sang Bye Bye, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, holy crap, that song was made for you. So it's, she deserves all the credit because I tried to talk her out of it. I really did.
She also said "I'm All Right" was a song that you didn't want to let go because you didn't have your recording contract yet. So was it tough to let that one go?
Well, you know what? It was tough, honestly, but but then after it was a number one song for for however many weeks it was, I was like, this ain't so bad, and I always realized that. If you're a writer and you think you've written your best song, then you shouldn't be writing songs. Oh. So I let it go, and I said, and she really, really did make it her own. And of course, I do all these songs at my concerts. I do Bye Bye and I'm All Right for a little while, 30 years, and Right on the Money. I do all of them. A lot of songs that a lot of artists have recorded, and so it's all good. You don't really realize at the time how important it was to get those songs cut, and how big of a deal it was. It was just, for me, I waited so long, to get my deal, to get my, and finally, of course, Just Another Day in Paradise was another song that Lone Star had cut on their Lonely Grill album, which was a huge album. And my label was like, you got to stop letting these people cut your song. I'm like, well, look, man, they put me in the, like a year off from being from getting my record out. They said, look, I'm just going to, I'm on a roll of unprecedented, I said, look, I'm having these number one songs like crazy. I said, I'm going to keep it up until you guys are ready to put me out. And so finally my label head had to call Joe Galante, who was at RCA with Lone Star. And he said, look, they can't have that song. They can't. So they had to give it back. And of course it was a big hit for me. Carlene came out. Immediately, they just sort of they rushed my record release up, so they skipped over a bunch of other people that had already had their albums cut, and they put Carlene out and Paradise. I mean, the rest is it was a great record for me. That first album was a big platinum record, So
writing all those songs for these other artists that picked up, like Little Red Rodeo, Right on the Money for Alan Jackson, Postmark Birmingham for Black Hawk. And several others. It earned you the 1999 ASCAP Songwriter of the Year award. Did that help you get the record deal, or did you already secure the record deal before winning that award?
No, I mean I'm sure it had a lot to do with it, and everybody kind of knew what was going on. I kind of came out of nowhere. Like I remember going to the ASCAP awards the year before I didn't have any awards, and then the next year I was just Songwriter of the Year. So within that year, I'd had 6 number one songs, and it was just like, holy crap! Everybody was like, "Where'd you come from?" I'm like, "I've been here for 15 years. What are you talking about?" Or 10. So it's that 10-year overnight success, is basically what it was.
I was the guy that you said would never fit in, remember?
Yeah, and let me tell you what, a lot of them. I remember Garth and a bunch of those guys because I was always trying to get Garth to cut some of my songs, and he never, ever did. I mean, God love him. I love Garth, and he's one of my favorites, but I could never get him to cut. I gave him I'm All Right. I gave him all these songs. And anyway, but he was like, anyway, he's always been really, really gracious and a really good friend. He's a good man, and but anyway, a lot of people didn't like it. I mean, a lot of record labels hated my music. They said, your music's too left of center. It's never going to work in Nashville, ever. I mean, seriously, Tony Brown, the list goes on and on. Big time producers. And then, But you know what it did? It's if you just work hard enough and you get lucky and you have other artists that believe in your stuff, then heck, good things can happen.
Well, like you said, you eventually did get that record deal. The self-titled first album comes out, and you talked about Carlene, and that's one I wanted to touch on a little bit more because to me, it is my favorite Phil Vassar song. Your very first single. How'd you come up with that?
You know what? It was just I had just seen this biography on Cindy Crawford, and of course Cindy is gorgeous, and I got to meet Cindy, and Randy, her husband, told her about this song because I really wrote it about Cindy Crawford, and I changed the name to Carlene, because Cindy just didn't. She didn't sing well. I'm like, I need a name. And then my buddy Charlie, of course, my co-writer, he goes, I used to date a girl named Carlene in high school. I said, Carlene? I said, that's perfect. That's it. It fits perfectly. So we changed the name. Of course, it was, we'd had like 6 different names, and, but Carlene just stuck. But it was kind of about, loosely based on this girl, Janice Rokes, who was my valedictorian in my class, who was really gorgeous. And I was just like, of course, she never even, I don't know. I was an athlete, and she was the brainiac. I was always like, man, it just never did ever happen. I always kind of, so that was loosely based on her. And then the Cindy Crawford thing came up, and she was valedictorian of her class. I mean, she was smart and beautiful and all this stuff. From DeKalb, Illinois. And I said, well, so we just kind of came up with this story, loosely based on me and Janice Rokes or if it would have been Cindy Crawford, so anyway, it was just a fun song. And with the record itself, the single, I remember talking to Bruce Hornsby, and he's like, Phil, this song, he said, it's great. He said, I love it. He said, man, good work. When you hear that from Bruce Hornsby, who was one of my favorites ever, but he was like, man, dude, he said, I heard it. I got chills, man. I'm like, God, man, thank you so much, so I was really, really, I loved that record. And the weird thing, Glenn, was my label closed right in the middle of the release. It got to about 40 or 35 or something like that. And then Arista closed and was sucked into RCA, the label things. And as you know, stuff like that happens, man. It's death for a song. It can be death. The label closes and all that stuff. But RCA kept the promotion staff. So it was me and Alan Jackson and Brad Paisley, Dom and Rio, and I'm trying to think of Carolyn Dawn Johnson. A couple of artists left, and a lot of people got dropped. But I was like, I didn't know if I was going to have my record deal or keep it. And then I saw Joe Galante in an elevator, and he said, Phil, I love Carlene, man. He loved it because I just listened to your record. I love it. And I was like, so it means I have a record deal? He goes, you better believe you do. That really did mean a lot, So I was, the funny thing is I was writing with Mac Davis in L.A., and Mac was a dear friend, and I miss him already. He's just a dear human being, man. I can't tell you how much that guy meant to me. And but we were in L.A. doing I'm rambling. I don't even know if that's okay, but I'm rambling.
You're good. I got time. I got time if you got time.
We were writing in L.A., and he's like, man, and we were out there for the ACM Awards, and he lived there, of course. And but I was riding with my hero, Mac, and he said, man, so we had so much fun. We just kind of hung out, and I was there over the weekend, and Monday, Tuesday, I think the ACMs were the Wednesday following. And he said, man, let's play golf next week. I said, well, I'd love to. He said, of course, he's a member of the Bel Air Country Club, which is one of the greatest clubs in the United States. And I'm like, are you serious? Because I always heard about it through Bob Hope and all these people. And it was all the stars played there. Engelbert Humperdinck, Joe Pesci. You name it. I'd talk to people that belonged there. And I said, well, I would love that. So he said, okay, we're playing on Tuesday. So I said, great. So the next week comes along, and the label calls me, and they said, we need you to do a video right away of Just Another Day in Paradise. I said, well, okay, I can do it when I get home. They said, no. We want you to do it while you're in L.A. We're sending over a treatment, and we want you to do it right away. Let's just do it Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, well, okay. So it ended up being on Tuesday. So I called Mac, and I said, Mac, I can't play golf on Tuesday. He goes, are you kidding me? I said, no, I can't. I got to shoot the video for Just Another Day in Paradise here in Malibu. And he said, well, said, "You're lost. I just had a foursome with you, me, James Garner, and Bob Newhart."
Wow.
Can you believe that? So I didn't get to play golf with James Garner, my hero, and Bob Newhart and Mac Davis because I had to do this video for Just Another Day in Paradise. So anyway, pretty crazy.
Well, at least the video turned out good.
The video was great, and it was a big #1 song for me. So it was like, you know what? It was a blessing, I got to say. But what a crazy story, and it's the truth.